Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Moms Talk Sex podcast with me, Mor Yelvington, your host. I'm so excited you're here today with me because we are going to have a very interesting, different conversation. For the first time ever on the show, I actually don't have a mom, I have a man. And I'm very excited for this. I've never done this before, but I feel like there's always it's always good to have a different perspective and a different point of view. And I believe that Rod, my guest, is going to be the person to really unveil some of the secrets behind what the men are thinking in this exact particular moment. So, hi, Rod. How are you
How
today?
you doing? I'm good, More. I'm good.
Me too. I'm so excited for this conversation. So, how about you introduce yourself and tell our listeners what it is that you do?
Okay, More. So I like to start out by saying I am not a therapist or a psychologist, but I do have a very specific set of skills that have made me the best in the world at what I do. And that is I help couples get what they need from their spouses without arguing. And they are able to do that in just minutes. Can I tell you how I came up with this?
Yes, I would love to hear your story.
So a couple of decades ago, I met a wonderful woman, but after about 10 years more, I kind of decided I wanted a divorce. I wanted out. And so we went to marriage counseling, but we got kicked out of marriage counseling.
What?
Yeah, yeah. So the first 4 weeks, they were just assessing us to see if we were suitable for counseling. And on the fifth week, they said, oh, well, because if she was beating on me or if I were an alcoholic, then we need individual counseling.
Right.
But on the fifth week, they said, yep, you guys are suitable for counseling and you'll get another 8 to 12 weeks of counseling. Well, we got kicked out on that fifth week. It was my fault. I was being stubborn. I didn't want to do this exercise that the lady was asking us to do. But a couple of days later, I was like, Lord, if I'm going to stay in this relationship, I need to see some progress right now. And so I started to working on something because I wanted to help me and my wife, and I wanted to help other couples not go through what I felt like my wife and I had experienced. While I was doing this, I realized I didn't have any real problems with my wife. I hadn't caught her lying or cheating or poisoning my food or anything like that. We just had some disagreements along the way. We're different people. And I realized if we had been able to resolve our disagreements as they occurred, I wouldn't be in the predicament that I was in. So what I ended up with, I created a game. I call it like the name of the game is YBAngry, YBAngry, YBAngry. But it's like couples coaching with instant results. It just works every time. So um, yeah, so that's how I came up with this. It just works every time. So I don't try to counsel couples on their whole marriage or their life. I just help them one issue at a time. And if you can, I think if you can come together one issue at a time, every time you have an issue, then you won't have any.
Yes, I love
So,
that. So,
so consequently, the most common issue that I have recorded is should she initiate sex more often? So I
mhm.
sit down with a couple and say, hey, what's the one issue that if you could fix right now while I'm with you to help you coach you through this game, what do you think you'll get the most benefit from if you can resolve it? And it's been, should she initiate sex more often? One time it's been, should he initiate sex more often? But should she initiate sex has been the single most important issue, seems like. But it works every
Wow.
time.
So how can you help, what can help somebody if they feel like their wife isn't initiating sex enough? What should a
So,
woman take from this?
so what I want to say is what I learned. One of the things I learned is that there's like 5 or 6 videos on my website, YBAngry.com. And if you go there or the YouTube channel and you watch the should she initiate sex or should he initiate sex videos, it seems like the ladies are all saying the same thing. And the guys are all pretty much saying the same thing. So we aren't that very different.
Mm.
So if your ladies are listening and their man is nagging them about not having them not initiating sex more often, I would suggest they just sit down and watch a couple of those videos. Because what will happen is your female listeners, they will hear another man saying to them what their spouse or partner probably wants to say or feels but haven't said. At the same time, their spouse or partner can hear another woman saying to them what your listeners might feel or want to say. So there's a lot of commonality in the videos when you watch them.
Would you sum her up for us just a little bit so we can get a little taste of what that looks like?
So in summary, I'd probably say women, the one big misconception that I see women seem to have is, what does it matter who initiates it as long as it happens?
Mm.
You guys feel like, well, as long as he gets sex, does it matter if he initiated or I initiated? He got it. So he don't have to go out in the street and get it or whatever. But to the guy, well, that's a concern, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So to the guy, and the guy's like, hey, I want to feel wanted too,
yeah.
right? And if he's initiating all the time, he's not feeling wanted. But when
Mm.
he goes out in the street and maybe some ladies are hollering at him or giving him some attention, then you're kind of competing with that. And you're thinking you're not, but you are, because the guy wants to feel wanted.
Yeah,
And it gets to a point where he feel like he's begging because he always has to ask you for it. And he'll feel like it's a one-way thing. So, but that's just coming from my mouth. If they watch some of those videos, they'll see these different guys pretty much saying the same thing. They want to feel wanted too. Now, the ladies will be like, well, I don't want to just wham bam, thank you, ma'am. I want to be, I want to date a little bit. I want to wine and dine a little bit and all this kind of stuff. And the guys, their partners need to hear that,
yeah,
you know. One lady says, I'm not a jet. I'm like a 747. I need to be warmed up a little bit.
right.
Uh, that was a funny video. That guy, he wanted to have sex. Uh, their issue was, should we have sex more than 3 times a week? He wanted to have sex 3 times a day, you know. And she said, that is 3 times a week to me, you know. And
Right.
so we're really different. But with the game that I was blessed to create, I learned two major things really in the last couple of months. So more, one of the things, the first thing I learned is that we don't know our partners as well as we think we do.
Mm.
I don't care if you've been together for 10, 20, 50 years. You don't know your partner as well as you think you do. If you did, we wouldn't have these misunderstandings. You wouldn't be
Right.
thinking, you wouldn't be thinking he's good sexually when really he's not. He's missing something. The feeling wanted part. He, like I said, he wants to feel wanted too. The other big thing is we don't communicate as well as we think we do. We just
Yeah.
don't. We probably are able to articulate very well, but the listening part of communication, well, we don't do well. And also, we're not communicating as well as we think we do because we don't understand our partner as well as we thought we did in the first place. So we interpret what they're doing or what they're saying wrong.
Mm.
And
So what
those are
can
the
we
two.
do? What can we do differently then? What can you suggest to do
So,
differently?
so my game, and it'll work every time if you follow the rules. And there's three main rules. One, you both have to want the relationship to work. It's not the kind of game that you can win by yourself. The relationship has to win or you both lose.
Yeah.
Okay? And what that does, it puts you on the same team. So no one has to, so no one is attacking, and no one has to feel like, no one has to be defensive because they don't feel like they're being attacked. We're on the same team. Like
Yeah.
he's not the problem, sex is the problem. So it's me and him working on this
Okay.
sex issue. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second uh, main rule is you both have to be honest about what you're talking about. And in this game format, it makes people feel safe. It's a game. We're just supposed to have fun. It's not stressful drama. It's not being in a counselor's office and I'm being double teamed and I have to share my feelings. And I mean, it's funny how people will share their feelings to the whole world on my videos, you know, but for some reason, this game makes them feel comfortable. And the third thing is you have to be able to count to 14 because they're just 14, to me, simple steps in this process. And to me, they're simple. They're just not real intuitive. They might not be the way we're used to handling our disagreements over the last 20 or 30 or 40 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, to better answer your question, though, the most important steps in the game to me are steps 4 and 5. In steps 4 and 5, your partner has to repeat back to you what you believe, what he believes you mean in his own words,
Mm,
and follow that with, is that right? What that does is it makes one, you feel heard. I
right.
can't tell you how often when we get to a later step, steps 12 or 13, the lady will say, I feel heard. And that kind of helps resolve the issue. But once you feel heard, now it's easier for you to hear him,
Right.
you know? And when he responds to you, he can actually respond to what you actually mean, not something he thought you meant
Yeah.
based on the last 10 or 20 years. So now as the conversation goes on, we can go on talking about the same thing. We're seeing eye to eye. So often couples, when they have arguments, they aren't really arguing about the same thing because
Right.
communication just isn't there. Those are the most important steps, just making sure we're on the same page, making sure I understood what you said. I was with a couple 2 weeks ago. They've been married for 20 something years. And I'm talking to this, they were referred to me by, the lady was referred to me by another lady. So I'm talking to her and I mentioned to her that the most common thing I resolved is should she initiate sex more often? She said, yeah, he said he mentioned something like that. I said, well, if that's a problem, you really need to fix that. You really need to get an understanding on that because everything else can be fine. But if he ends up going out and cheating or whatever, then everything just gets messed up, right?
Yeah.
So when we sat down to actually play the game, the guy goes, well, I mentioned to him, okay, you guys have to think of just one issue to resolve. And he says, I don't think you appreciate all the hard work I do. I don't think you appreciate the life we've built together. And so that is the issue we end up resolving that night. Now, earlier, when I was just talking to the lady, um, I asked her, well, if you don't, because, she's needing some help. I said, do you think if you don't get if things don't get better, you think you're going to end up in divorce court? She said, no, no, we're not that far yet. I can just tell things are different. You know, uh, we don't touch anymore, talk like we used to. And so during the game, so we played the game. Um, does my wife appreciate the life we built? Now, he's saying no, she's saying yes. So like the second step in the game is that you take the issue and you convert it to a yes or no question. Now, he says no, she says yes, and then he writes down a bunch of details to support his no, and she writes down a bunch of details to support her yes. And then they rank their own details. And what we do is then we talk about those details. We focus even more. We talk about those details one at a time. And the reason why the game end so quickly most of the time is because the issue is resolved on the first detail. When we handle the first big problem, the first big detail of this issue, so their one issue is made up of, I think, 8 different issues. Well,
Okay.
when they handle the big issue, her issue, I mean, the thing that she said to support her big issue was, I am still here. Just those 3 words. I'm still here. So when we got to steps 4 and 5 more, the guy had to repeat back to her what he believes she means. And he says, you are happy with our relationship. I mean, you're happy with the life. I'm sorry. If you were not happy with the life we built, you wouldn't still be here. Is that right? And she says, no. And I go, like you did. I'm like, what? And then he says, he did something else to change it up a little bit. And she said, no. So this is just 3 words. They've been together for 20 years, over 20
Right.
years, and they don't understand these 3 words.
Right.
So after trying a few times, she reiterates what she means, and what she meant was, uh, I'm still fighting for our relationship, and
Mm,
that's why I'm still here, which was slightly different. But as you can imagine, if they were having a frustrated or heated conversation, and he was not able to calmly get an understanding of what she said, they would have continued the conversation, not understanding what each other had said with just those 3 words.
right. Right.
So, and his issue really was not feeling appreciated, um, and which she wasn't even aware of that he
Yeah.
didn't feel appreciated. So what the game does, so often when I sit down with a couple, they end up playing a game that one of the party didn't know was an issue. That happens a lot. I did a game with a couple one time where the lady, this is unbelievable to me,
Okay.
okay? And it just shows you how we don't know each other.
Yeah.
This couple has been married for more than 30 years. Their issue was, should he have purchased that car? If you watch that video, should he have purchased that car? Now, this guy, he does Uber and Lyft driving for money. So he bought a nice car so he can do maybe Uber Black or something like that. Well, after during the game, it comes out that she thought he had spent their Hawaii vacation money to buy the car. So
Oh,
she had been holding this in for like 3 or 4 months.
wow.
You would have thought that this lady could have simply said to her husband of decades, hey, are we still going to Hawaii? Or did you spend Hawaii money on this? But she never did. She just held it in all that time. And he was clueless that she was bothered by this for months.
So why do you think that is that women don't feel like they can talk about this stuff? Like it seems like what is the main issue here that women are just not talking about these things?
It's not just women, though. It's men. Because remember, the guy was feeling unappreciated. So
Yeah.
we, I think what happens more often than not is we assume we know that person, and we assume they know why we're bothered. Women do think we're mind readers, and as smart as men are, we're
Yeah.
not
No.
we're not mind readers.
No.
We just we're not, you guys are more emotion driven, and men are more logical.
Right. I'm
So,
curious. I have a question. With the work that you were doing, did you find out why it is that women don't initiate sex as much? Is there like a
well,
common or is it really individual for every person?
no, I think the a couple common things was women just don't generally women aren't as sex driven as guys are. I mean, women aren't don't have as high of a sex drive as men, especially after menopause, and you know, and you guys are too busy. You come home and you're dealing with the kids and in the house a lot of time and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of times what I'm seeing, the guy comes home and he's just home. You know, he doesn't have a lot of stuff to do when he come home. But a lot of time the women have a lot of stuff. So you got more stuff on your mind and you're tireder and all this stuff. Uh, that and you don't think it matters. Again, you don't think it matters who initiates the sex. As long as, so he wants sex more than you. Let's say he wants it 3 times a week and you're okay once a month. Well, if it was up to you, you'd be initiating it once a month, but you don't really have to initiate it once a month because he's already initiated
Right.
those times. So it ends up you're never initiating sex.
Mm.
And that's probably the big thing. You don't think it matters who initiates sex, but to the guy, it absolutely does. But
And
yeah, and
do you find it that when guys initiate the sex, do they mostly get a positive response or a negative response when they initiate?
so I think most of the time it's a negative response.
Hmm. So
So
what do you
from
think that is?
because she's okay once a month and she just gave it to him yet 3 days ago or yesterday. And I got to fold the laundry and you're not caring about it as much as the guys. You don't need it as much as the guys do sometimes.
Eh, I beg to differ. I just feel like women are just disconnected from the part of them for too long, right? Because when you
Wait,
talk to women that are in their
wait, wait,
power,
wait. Let me be clear. What are you begging to differ of? Because I think I said you don't need it as much as the guy do, generally.
yeah, I don't agree. I feel women need it just as much. We just don't know how to verbalize it. We don't know how to say it. We don't know how to mention when we're not enjoying it. So we keep getting the same
Bad sex.
yes over and over again. That's why so many women,
Okay.
fake orgasms. And so they don't want to do something like that when they don't feel like they can talk about it. And so I feel like it's
Oh,
really because, in my line of work, working with a lot of women, they actually healed this stuff and found their voice in a bedroom. Their sex drive is off the roof. They're
okay,
so
but
into
okay, but most women aren't working with you.
it.
Most
You're right.
women, most women are
They
not
should.
getting sexually satisfied, so they don't need it. I don't need
Right.
to have sex with this guy tonight. I'd rather do the laundry or whatever.
So
Now,
in your
once they
game, can you resolve that part? Can you help
can,
them? Like, can you help the women? Do you find the women in this game be able to say these things to the men? Like, yeah, I would have more sex with you if you helped me around the house, or if knew what you were doing in a bedroom, or if you knew how to touch me the right way. Like, does those conversations come up at all?
absolutely.
Good.
So the game, for whatever issue they're talking about, should he clean the bathroom or whatever the problem is, the people are able to talk about it. Like for some reason, like they've never been able to talk about it. But more than them being able to talk about it, their partner would actually hear them, where before they wouldn't hear them
Mm,
for some reason. Either they're trying to talk about it at the wrong time, or or they feel like they're being defensive, you're being defensive, or something like that. But when they play with this structure, they're able to talk about it. That's why I'm saying if your listeners watch some of the videos, you'll see ladies saying that kind of stuff. I'm not
yeah,
a 740, I'm not a jet, I'm a 747. You have to warm me up. Or
right.
when I did my TED talk, I talk about how the lady wants to be massaged and all this kind of stuff. And I mentioned that when the guy does that, to him, that is initiating sex. And you'll see the guy say that on one of the video. If I'm gonna rub your feet and rub your shoulders, that's me initiating sex again to a guy. Because
Yeah, that's
that's what
interesting.
that that's what he's trying to get to. So we just aren't seeing eye to eye. But at least now he knows what he needs to do to get you in the mood,
Right.
you know? So
Yeah.
and for example, like it might be hard for you to be in the mood well, if the sex isn't like you want it to be,
Right.
and you after menopause and all this kind of stuff, then you just aren't in the mood as much as he is. So you have to be able to tell him what helps you.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I totally agree with that. You know, it's interesting. Like I have a few clients that actually have these issues with their husbands because they're in an age where, maybe their machinery isn't working as great as it used to, and they're having a hard time initiating sex, and the women want more of that. Have you ever had that kind of issue come up with your clients?
Yeah, there's one video where remember I mentioned should he initiate sex more often?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that was his problem, but the guy's working, he's tired, and all this kind of stuff. So he just doesn't want it as much as she does. But by playing this game, she's able to express that
And
to
then
him.
how does it resolve? Like what is the like so is the result of the game like now they're having more sex? Or is it more now we can talk about how we're really feeling and see a different point of view about it?
Okay, so it's all resolved in the game. Okay,
Okay.
and what I mean is, uh, if she uh, if she needs to be warmed up a little bit, or yeah, she needs to be warmed up a little bit before we just have sex, or if she don't just like the wham bam, thank you, ma'am. She's able to say all that stuff in the game. And he's actually hearing her now. Like the deal with the should we have sex more than 3 times a week, where the guy wanted sex 3 times a day.
Yeah.
He was like, well, I thought you wanted it. She's like, no, I didn't want it. I told you I didn't want it. He said, well, I thought you was just like, he thought she was just, he wasn't really listening to her. He thought
Yeah.
she was just talking. But the game, it just forces your partner to hear you. So you will say what it is that you think you need. But see, here's the other thing too, though. You might be in, your ladies might be in more of a mood to have sex if they didn't have to get his dirty laundry off the floor
Right.
um, all the time, or if she didn't have to come home from work, cook and clean, and do this with the kids or whatever while he was sitting on the couch. And I'm not saying that's a bad setup. I'm just saying if if she's a little frustrated, like I like I tell this, like I went to see this one couple. And hey, the first step is you guys have to agree on one issue. And they were kind of him-harming a little bit. And I said, hey, the couple yesterday did it on should we buy a new dryer? And the couple I'm in front of said, well, that's not a big deal. I said, well, it is a big deal if you're the one that has to kick this dryer a couple of times a week. You might not feel like putting as much love in the food, or you might not feel like having sex that night if that's your role. So little issues, I believe, permeate into other issues in our life. And
Yeah.
then you come home with a new power drill, and I'm frustrated about that because I still have to kick this dryer. So
Right.
if your ladies are able to take care of all the little issues they have, they might have more energy for love.
Of course.
It's
Well,
like
that's the main thing. Yeah.
right. So when you first got together, yeah, you were more interested in it because you didn't have as many issues getting in the way. So that's why I
Yeah.
think if you're able to take care of your issues, even the small ones, as they occur, you'll find yourself talking more, you'll understand each other more, your bond to grow tighter, and you'll just be together forever.
Yeah. I love it. And are you with your lady still?
No.
No.
So remember, the first rule is you both have to want the relationship.
Yeah.
If it's the kind of game you can't win by yourself, the relationship has to win or you both lose. So if one
Right.
of you don't, so you know, I came up with this game when it was too late.
Yeah.
So there is a point where it's too late.
Yeah.
You have to. So while you're still with your guy, while he is still interested in having sex with you, you need to let him know what will help you make him feel wanted. What will help you initiate sex more. Like,
Yeah,
you know what? If I could come home and just relax for 30 minutes before I have to deal with the house stuff after work, then I might have some energy before I go to bed. But when it's time to go to bed, I'm just ready to crash. I don't know.
yeah,
These
yeah,
are just things I'm hearing. I'm not able to put all the videos. I mean, whenever I record a video, sometimes the couples will say, "No, I don't want to put that up
right.
there." But there's enough on there for you to hear other ladies and what the guys are saying. I just encourage them to watch the videos to see what the guys are saying. And most of the time, they want to feel wanted. That's the big thing.
Yeah. I
You
think
know,
everybody wants to feel seen and heard and wanted, right? Like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
really it. Like that's what we want. That validates who we are. People that fill our cup and we fill their cup.
Well,
So,
and you're feeling wanted sexually because the guy's initiating it all the time, most of the time.
right,
I mean,
right.
in general. But the guy doesn't get that. You're, you know, you're just giving it to him when he asks for it. Sometimes. And then when the guy doesn't, if he's asking all the time, he's kind of hesitant. He's not asking every time he wants it.
Right.
He's just not. He says it because, oh, she's just going to say no right now. And, you know, so that's a rejection for the guy. And that feels really bad.
Yeah. So if they want to find you, what you do, this cool game, your videos, where can they go to find all this?
If they go to YBAngry.com, they
Okay.
can get everything there. The book is there, the game is there. I even have a mobile app now that they can use. And if they go down to the very bottom of the website, you'll see a bunch of different hyperlinks. It might say, should she initiate sex more often? Or should he buy an expensive car? Should he clean the bathroom? That is the issue that the couple is trying to resolve. Should she clean the
Right.
bathroom? This one lady, she said her husband, and he agreed, refused to clean the bathroom for 20 years.
Oh my
For
gosh.
20 years, he refused to clean the bathroom. While we were playing the game, he's ready to go clean the bathroom.
Wow.
So as you can imagine now, the the time that this lady doesn't have to clean the bathroom, she can relax a little bit and she might actually, or she might see him cleaning the bathroom and just get turned on. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just
of
thinking if
course.
it
I interviewed a woman here yesterday. We were talking, and she was saying, I do the same with my husband. You go to the store and buy the groceries. I'll be ready in bed for you, right? It's like a tit for tat, right? If you're taking
right,
off my plate, I have space to fill your cup, right? So it's just
right.
it all working together. Well, thank you so much for being with me. This was such a great conversation, and I'm sure it's an eye opener for a lot of our listeners. And what an amazing gift you got from God to create this game and bring it to our planet to really help us communicate better. One of the biggest things that come in this podcast is communication. So if there's a way to make it fun and to make it available for everybody, I believe it's an amazing capacity and gift. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And ladies, for listening. If you want any more information, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thank you for listening today, and I'll tune in with you again next week. Bye.